higher education on the one hand is like more accessible than ever, right? Like more and more people are going to and have gone to college. And on the other hand, it feels like even more of a divide than ever. Like the education stratification, especially when it comes to politics, seems to be so stark. And, the cost of college is such a prominent conversation. I mean, do you want to offer any general thoughts on how you see the higher education landscape today?
The higher education landscape. Well, I worry a lot about the attacks on universities. I think they are targeted. They are a kind of movement to try to discredit what is seen as a liberal part of society. They're coming from the right in many cases. There's lots that higher education needs to change. I think cost and openness and accessibility are all issues that universities have been working on and need to continue to work on. But I would just underscore that American universities are a wonder. They are admired around the world in a way few other parts of American society are as positively. They have been magnets for people all over the world. They are sources of innovation and important technical developments that have come out of the research in universities. And they also have transformed so many student lives. So I worry that we no longer see higher education as a public good, as something that's good for all of society. We increasingly focus on how it's good for this single individual who therefore has to pay for the whole thing. I mean, our social support for higher education in public higher education in the States has declined significantly since the time of the financial crisis in 2008. And therefore, these debts that students are facing are in no small part due to the transfer of responsibility to the students themselves away from some sense that this is a wider social good. I also worry that we need to understand that education is about more than just you're getting a job or your first job. Now, I mean, I just read a piece that you wrote where you talk about the importance of technical education, and I completely agree with that. We need more people who are able to do those very important, play those very important roles in society. But I think we also need to recognize that education is something that is about building citizens. It's about expanding people's horizons. It's about making people part of a larger polity and community through the kinds of inquiries that will last them a lifetime beyond any single kind of job they may get. And I would just note that for all the criticism of higher education, most of the people criticizing it are sending their children to college. And I worry a lot that we're going to have a sense of, okay, a certain element in society goes to college, but the rest of society, just let them go to technical school. And that we're going to have a kind of class divide around how education is seen to play a role in people's lives. And that would be terrible. So as we criticize college, let's think about the large role it plays beyond simply job training, in addition to what it does in job training. I'm not saying that's not important, but college is about more than training. It's about something we call education, which is broader. So those are some of my reflections on the kinds of critiques and demeaning of higher education, which I mean, as you would expect, find quite dangerous. But I believe that it's not just about the world in which I have lived as an adult, but rather the ability to witness the kind of impact it's had on so many lives.
I will say it was really interesting to me reading your book how jealous I felt of your experience at Bryn Mawr, like not the curfew stuff and that kind of thing, not that part, but the quality of education it seemed like you received and the attention that you received from the instructors there was just miles away from what I got. And I went to NYU, which is not the best school in the country, but a totally fine one. And I think that some of my feelings about college do come from a bit of a disillusionment about what the actual experience is like across different colleges in the US.
One of the things that I have witnessed in my time at Harvard, I came in 2001, is a real transformation in the place of undergraduate education in the life of the university, but also in the minds of the faculty. the faculty most of them now, I would say, are just devoted to teaching. They really love the kinds of interaction with the undergraduates. They're fascinated by all the approaches to teaching that are now talked about in a very overt way, what technology can do. I think that the pandemic, in a way, accelerated this because when people had to do it online, then they thought, oh, I could bring in a guest, or I could go to the Louvre doing my history of art class because it's visual. I mean, it's on video. And so teaching and student faculty relationships around intellectual matters, I think, have changed significantly. There are many more small classes. You could probably get through Harvard sitting in the back row of a bunch of lectures if you really just wanted to be kind of a vegetable. But the opportunity is there to have a lot of interaction with faculty and a lot of attention. So I think there's an awareness that there has been the kind of dissatisfaction you describe about what higher education represented in terms of teaching. And I think it's changed significantly.
Yeah, it's funny. My experience going to Columbia as an undergraduate, I mean, I was a teacher at Harvard, but I was never an undergraduate at Harvard. And, the core curriculum was a big deal of Columbia and still is, that all students spent a couple of years reading the same curriculum, the great books. And even though the actual books read has changed and continues to change. But when I was an undergraduate there, it was almost entirely taught by tenured faculty, some assistant faculty who really wanted to, like, they thought that was sort of part of their mandate, right? Their profession. And until about 10 years ago, there was about a 20-year period where it was only taught by TAs, like the way I taught at Harvard, so graduate students, because it was really hard to get faculty to commit to it, hard to get tenured faculty, hard to get assistants. So I think there's, these things kind of go in waves, and I'm a little heartened. Michael Crow is a member of the Progress Network, was the president of ASU, and he's also been really at the forefront of, this is an educational institution and has a public role, kind of apropos of the things you've just said.
I think faculty recognize that they have the opportunity for enormous influence through teaching, and that their scholarly articles may influence their field, but they're sending young people out in the world. And this is just a marvelous way to spread the knowledge and the things they really care about. So I think that's a factor in it as well.